Okay, parts of an essay. I find that students get really stressed out when I start talking about essays. And what we're doing is we're just talking about essays. So we're going to look at what does an essay have in it? What does a paragraph have in it? What are the steps that you would take if you were to write an essay? Okay, so just take a deep breath. We'll be fine. When we talk about an essay, I see that students kind of think of an essay as this giant like pyramid. You're like, how did this happen? How am I supposed to write an essay? Only aliens can write essays. But so I say the alien thing because there are some people who think that the pyramids were like created by aliens. Which, okay, we don't know. It could have been. But when you look at it closely, what you can see is that each pyramid is built up of bricks that build upon one another. So when you put it overall, it looks like this really huge project, which it is, but it's made up of little steps. And that is what an essay is like, okay? That's an analogy for you. So an essay is kind of like a pyramid, or writing an essay is. So when you write an essay, there are 5 big steps to writing an essay. We're going to look at how do you write an essay? What are those 5 steps? And then as we're going through these steps, it shows you how to also write an essay like it as if you were currently writing it. Okay. The reason why teachers make students write essays is not just to torture you. It's because there are times in your life when you are going to need to explain your opinion, when you're going to need to explain your position on a subject. And this is an academic way to discuss your opinions, to discuss opinions that differ from you while still being respectful and getting your point across. So this is a way that you can communicate with individuals and communicate things that are really complex. So you do that by introducing an idea, evidence, and explaining your evidence. And that's really all an essay is just doing that a couple more times. So when you're going to write an essay, we have a pre-write. So before you sit down at a computer, I recommend sitting down with a piece of paper and a pen, or a blank Google Doc, that's fine too, and list different possibilities of topics. Maybe if you know the topic, you can make a web. Some of you like doing a little web outline. I like to do a list, like a bullet point list, and I do it in this list up here is for this paragraph, and then I skip some lines and I'll say these bullets, this list is an outline for my next paragraph. And as you're making this pre-writing, what you're doing is you're creating a hypothesis, a statement, a theory about maybe what kind of evidence you want to include and what your finished product will look like. Sometimes you don't know what your finished product will look like until you gather and organize data. So you need to collect and organize data. This is when you read stuff and then you write down the quotes so that you can put it in your essay later. So when teachers are like, I'm going to show you how to annotate something, this is why we do that, because it helps you collect and organize data. You're looking for key information, and especially information that supports the essay you plan to build. So things that you want to pick are quotes from a book or an article. That could be something a teacher has given you, or that could be something that you have found on your own. An encyclopedia, you could get a quote from an interview. And sometimes personal experiences are A-okay. At the high school level, we try to move away from all personal experiences and be more in a text and find your evidence from a text. But it is also really helpful in your reasoning and your explanation to connect it to real life. Okay, so this is step number 3 is where people end up sometimes getting overwhelmed and tripping and eating the dirt, okay? This is where sometimes we fall on our face. But there's a guideline. So Step number 1 was write a pre-write. Step number 2 was gather your evidence. Step number 3 is you got to write your draft. You write your first draft. It's called a rough draft. It's not called a shiny, pretty diamond, I'm going to sell this for $1 million draft. It's called a rough draft. I often see that students let this fear of not being good enough start them from writing, and that they stare at a blank page and they're like, I don't know what to write. Let's talk about what you write. So once you actually come into writing your essay, all essays have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that beginning paragraph is called an introduction. That's when you introduce your topic and you include a thesis statement. You tell your reader, this is what I'm talking about. Now, they have a beginning, middle, and end. In the middle part, this is the meat of your essay. This is the body of your essay. This is where you include the evidence that is gathered and your reasoning why it supports your thesis. So this is the technical part. You have to decide, how am I going to order that body of my essay? Am I going to put details in importance? Am I going to list it chronologically? Am I going to give a description of the place? It depends on your prompt. And then the last part of an essay is the conclusion. It's the final end. The final paragraph is your conclusion, like period. The introduction is the first paragraph and your conclusion is the last paragraph. Everything that comes in the middle is your body. So in your final paragraph, you summarize the main points of what you said and you remind the readers why your topic is important. You can even end with a call to action. I love ending with a call to action because this is a way that you can connect your topic to your readers' lives. For example, someone could be writing a piece about single-use plastics and talking about how so much plastic ends up in the sea and that, the fish are eating the plastic, which then goes up to the seabirds, and the seabirds are eating the plastic, which then goes to like the seals and the orcas. And now okay, so you see that's some evidence, but how they might end that final paragraph is they might give a call to action to their reader. They might say, look around your house and see all the single-use plastics. Try replacing a few a week with reusable items. So a single-use would be like a toothbrush. Like, have you ever thought about that? Or like a disposable razor. What happens to that plastic after you use it? You throw it in the garbage and then it like stays there forever. Okay, moving on. That's a side note. Next. Why is this not letting me move? I'm just going all over the place. Stop. There we go. Okay, number 4, revising and editing. This is the part that a lot of students skip, and this is why they generally think that they don't write well. And this is the biggest difference between a practice run and a final product. When you revise and you edit, that it's when you read it out loud for errors. Maybe you share it with a friend to review. Maybe you have your teacher look over it. And sometimes you might decide to rewrite a sentence altogether. As you're reading it, you might say, oh, that doesn't make sense. Or, oh, that piece of evidence isn't actually a good one to support my thesis. When you're finally done, I would say publish is its own little extra step. When you're finally done, you publish it. So that could be printing it off and turning it in. That could be posting it online. That could be posting it to an online journal or an online portfolio. So these are the steps to writing an essay. You got your pre-write, collect your data, rough draft, revise and edit, and then you publish at the very end. One note on organizing the body of your essay, this goes back to step 3, and it can kind of be step 4. You can play with the orders as you're editing and revising. The body of your essay should be organized in a logical way. So maybe you want to do it in order of importance. This is the best and I think the most common way to do to structure an essay, especially because at the high school level, we're really asking you to focus on persuasive and informational essays. So in that case, you put your most important information first. Newspapers aren't actually written this way. But maybe it makes more sense in a history class to write it chronologically. Or maybe you're writing a description and a narrative and place order. You want to talk about where things are, if they're above and below or around. Okay. So these are the steps to writing an essay. I'm not asking you to write an essay today. What I am going to ask you to do is to see if we can identify some pieces of an essay.